Were you with those guys when they would go around to the different shows?
Oh yeah, of course. And another one was the guy that played the trainer from oh my God, he was here when you fought the last fight. The best trainer, got voted best trainer.
Oh, Freddie Roach.
I know, see, it was a big name. I am not good at those big names.
Freddie Roach. Did he come through the Park and Rec program?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, him and his brother.
All his brothers, right? Pepper.
My son Danny fought his son.
Yeah.
In the
Fought Freddie?
No, the younger one.
Oh, the younger.
He never
Pepper.
turned pro.
You remember Stevie McDonald and Freddie?
Of course.
Boxed each other up there.
Yeah.
How was Stevie?
Good fella, yeah.
His father was
But
Jack.
you want to know something? He fought when I was fighting.
Yeah, the father.
Yeah, and his mother trained up. He thought he was the world's champion, but he was only a lightweight.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a hitter, and he loved Pepper.
Over Freddie, right?
Well, he did because it was like Butch taking David over
Richie.
Richard.
Well, he thought Pepper was going to be.
Well, Richie fought up until like he was like 29.
I know.
And he won the New England's up there.
That's right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they were in a tournament, and Freddie won in the semifinal, and Pepper won.
Yeah. So they had to face each other and
Yeah,
put
so,
you in the corner.
but-
Can we talk about that?
I told you that.
Yeah.
So Paul goes in Pepper's corner, and I used to see them spar all the time. And Pepper just wants to slug.
Yeah.
It was like Tommy Sullivan.
The
So anyway,
story
Pepper
about-
Roach and Freddie Roach both won in the semifinals of a tournament. And they fought the finals out in Woburn.
So they fought each other, the brothers?
Yeah, and I had to go in Freddie's corner because Paul was in Pepper's corner because he wanted Pepper to knock his own brother out because that was his favorite. So anyway,
His own son out.
yeah.
The father.
Yeah. So I said, Freddie, do me a favor. If I'm going to work your corner, box. Do not slug with your brother.
Right.
Because when they used to train, and Freddie hit him with a good shot, Pepper says, that is how you can hit your little sissy. Or we'll say other words, you know. And Freddie started opening up. Freddie had a decent record, and Pepper never did as a pro. When he came here, do you remember the day he came here?
Oh, yeah.
And I knew the Roaches. I mean, I went everywhere with them. And I said to Freddie, how's Pepper doing? He said, okay. I said, you don't see him much. He says, no, he don't come to the gym anymore. I says, why? He said, because I got in an argument with him and he sucker punched me. Freddie got Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And his brother sucker punches him.
Yeah.
First of all, he outweighs him, for one thing.
They've been fighting since they were little kids.
Yeah,
Didn't
I know.
stop.
Well, didn't they have a problem together?
Yeah. Well, because Freddie was getting all the accolades,
Yeah.
which he deserved, you
Right.
know. And Pepper was unhappy,
Right.
you know. Pepper only taught kids to punch, you know. Get hands in front of your face, just come in. You don't do that, you know. If you do, you start looking like me.
Yeah.
He agrees.
So I wanted to follow up too on the last time we went through it. We mentioned some names, some guys throughout the years that boxed from the neighborhood.
Well, back in my era, was a kid called Jackie Sanses.
Yeah.
But he fought in a tournament, and you had to be 16, I think. And he was only 15. And in the same tournament, a kid named Tony DeMarco fought in the same tournament. And that's not Tony DeMarco's real name. His real name is Liotta. And they both made it to the finals, and they both won. It was like silver mittens or something.
Same weight class?
No.
No, different weight class. Tommy was a middleweight, maybe?
I don't think he might have, yeah. But what do you call it, was a welterweight. But he could punch with either hand. But,
DeMarco.
yeah. And he was, like I was telling the guy here, there was only one world champion then, not the ABC and
Right.
WO and,
What was it, the MBO or MBF back then?
no, it was just the champ, whatever it was called.
Yeah. National Boxing Federation.
Yeah,
I
it could
think.
be, yeah.
Oh, world boxing.
But he only won that one fight, you know. He knocked out Saxton.
Yeah.
And he had like 4 more fights, and I think he got knocked out in 3 out of the 4 of them.
Jeez.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause he was in there slugging. After a while, it's going to bother your head. I don't know if I told you this story before. You heard of the Quarries.
The Quarries in
Jerry
Quincy?
Quarry and Mike Quarry.
Oh, yeah.
2 brothers. And they both fought, and we had a live show at the Garden, but then we had the 2 championship fights on the screen all around the ring. Jerry fought Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali knocked him out. And Mike fought a big black kid in the light heavyweight champ. I can't think of his name now, but he was really good.
Local
too.
kid?
No. and he also got knocked out the same night. So then after that, Quarry probably another 5 or 6 fights. Then he retired, and they had a thing on one of those sports stations, and they said to Jerry Quarry, they said, you were pretty young when you stopped fighting. Why? He says, I started having brain damage. Why did you have brain damage? He says, because when we're fighting for the world championship, the world championship is 12 rounds. But we're fighting for it. We do at least 100 rounds training. And we're against guys that are good fighters. You want to fight a guy like Ali, you want someone that's coming at you all the time. So he says, so now I really got dementia and I'm really bad about it. He says, yeah, but why did you get that? Just from that one fight? He says, no. When we trained for those championships, my father wouldn't let us wear headgear. His father was a trainer, wouldn't let either one of them kids wear headgear. And that's the way they died.
Yeah. Well, they probably
With dementia, yeah, they were banged out.
did excessive amounts of sparring too.
This is their father.
Yep.
Your fa-
But you got to remember, back in those days, it was just like hockey.
Mike,
and stuff.
no.
They didn't even wear helmets or masks.
I don't care. Well, Quarry wasn't that far back. Quarry's younger than I am.
Yeah.
Both of them. You look them up in the thing.
Everybody's younger than you are.
But anyway, it's just so sad that it's a tough racket to get into.
Yeah.
We had an Irish kid. I don't know where the hell he came from. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, from Ireland. But I mean, he fought, then he laid off, and he was coming back, and he wanted to come back, and we were working out at a gym in Roslindale. I forget what the name of it was. But anyway, Hagler was looking for some sparring partners. So the kid says, I'll go with him. And we took him up there. Hagler used his head for a speed bag. It's crazy, You don't know who you're in against.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me.
What happened to you? Oh, yeah, you fought that.
Johnny Sprague.
Yeah, Sprague, yeah. Yeah, but he fought a kid that went on to win the amateur championship. Same thing my brother Tommy did fighting Pat McCarthy. Pat worked for me at the gym.
Jim,
too.
yeah.
What year did you start? Not to give away your age, but what
What,
year
to
did
work?
you start up at St. Paddy's Day show? What year was that?
I
Was
worked
that
the, year
40?
the very first one, 1948.
48?
But in 1947, Joe Hurdy and my father belonged to the Catholic thing at St. Augustine's, and my father fought a little bit when he was younger, And Joe says, why don't you bring your son up, come over to our gym? My father says, where's your gym? We thought it was going to be a new garden, because you have to pay to go in there. He says, no, it's over on
Talbot
Tyler Street. Did I tell you that
Tyler,
before?
yeah.
A little building that the city owned, and it was just for boxing.
Right.
I don't know how many years he had it, but I went over in 47, and that was the first year I fought,
What was that, in Chinatown, Eddie?
Yeah, no, this side of Chinatown.
Oh, okay.
Chinatown, what's the main street going up there? Goes to,
Washington Street? Or?
where Neyland Street. Neyland
Yeah,
Street,
yeah.
isn't it? Well, it was back this way more.
Towards South Station.
No, back towards us, towards Southie, Tyler Street. It'll come out to...
That was probably before the Mass Pike was there.
Yeah, but definitely, yeah. But not too far back.
No.
Where the hospitals are there.
Yeah, New England
It's
Medical.
only down more to
So-
Tyler Street.
That was the first year you boxed in the St. Paddy's
Yeah,
Day
St.
show?
Paddy's Day show, yeah.
48, and it's been, running consistently throughout
yeah.
all those years?
Yeah, you want to talk about
What
running?
year did I forget? What year did it move up to the Muni?
48.
In 48?
Yeah,
Was
48.
that early?
Joe Hurdy. 'Cause Joe worked for the park department.
Yeah.
And Joe was a
I
fighter.
took over for Joe. You left. You went somewhere. I took over
I went to
for
heaven.
I took over for Joe
Yeah,
for the boxing as the chairman. Jimmy Flaherty passed away.
yeah.
And in I think it was 1965.
It's a lot
I
like
took-
at 48.
Yeah. I took over because Joe Hurdy passed away.
Yeah.
I don't know why you didn't take over.
They moved me.
Oh, okay.
What, were you working for the city at the
I
time?
worked for the city. I had to go where they told me to go. I worked in the South End. I worked in Rosendale. I worked in Hyde Park.
No, I don't want to jump around a little bit, but I just want to go ahead to that that junior Olympic team. You
Yeah.
had some success.
Yeah,
4 years consecutive, won the team trophy, but then it came to a halt in '82 with Prop 2.5.
yeah.
Took
Took the gym. They
took
closed
all
the
the
gym.
funding away from,
They closed
from
the
the
gym.
state budget.
And we still had the boxing show that year, but we went down to the one.
Go to the Condon or the Tynan?
No. That's what we had in the Condon.
Tynan.
But the
Tynan, right.
tryouts, Dorchester Street and Broadway, and you're going towards Andrew Square, it's a little street on the right. That kid that made fun of Whitey ran it.
Ellis.
Wrote a book,
Oh, Mackenzie.
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 Yeah, you had the tryouts in his place
Yeah, we had a tryouts in his place.
because he had a gym, a karate,
He had
a karate
he had
studio
he had
down
He had
there.
a ring there.
Yeah,
But, we didn't have as many kids as we normally would have. One year we had 25 bouts, right?
Right.
I didn't think we were ever.
25.
Another year, right after that Proposition 2.5, they didn't have any money for us to rent a ring. Me and Mike had to go to Ernie McKinley's house. How'd we get the truck? I don't remember.
We borrowed some type of a.
We borrowed someone,
Pick up
me
truck.
and him alone, had to go to McKinley's house, put the ring into the truck, bring it back, to all on the same day, put it up, and have the fights that night, and bring it back that same night.
You broke it down and brought it back.
Brought it back the same night. Mackenzie letting us take his ring. Crazy.
Because everything at that time was sponsored by the Citizens Association.
That's right.
But we
yeah.
didn't really get money. They just gave trophies.
Yeah.
And they didn't supply like shirts or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Well, what?
And they paid for the ring to rent the ring.
Right.
They weren't paying. And remember going up to the Tynan to get the chairs,
Yeah,
or L
yeah.
Street to get the chairs.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go get all the chairs, and
Jeepers.
the ring, and set it all up
Yeah,
all
no,
on the same day.
I
And then
remember-
Eddie would show up about 6:45.
Yeah, I remember the early days when I started coming up and giving you guys a
Yeah.
hand, getting the chairs and doing all that, and seeing the truck would come down. You'd rent the ring from Arthur Romalo. He'd send the
Yeah.
truck down,
Yeah.
and you'd set the ring
Yeah.
up.
I
Remember
and it
that?
was
You
just
got a good memory.
process, right?
Yeah, but that was the heyday of having nothing to do.
Right.
The other thing with Joe Hurdy, I remember he used to have the banquet the week after the show. You would have all the fathers bring their sons and have a banquet right in the
boxing.
gym and have a
Downstairs.
sit-down dinner.
Downstairs in the locker
Wow.
room.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good idea. Have
Yeah.
the banquet afterwards. Because this year, for the first time, because, I mean, how many kids would show up for the tryouts for you guys back in
Oh.
those days?
It got so bad that we had to split it up. I mean, we had 25 bouts. That's 50 kids right there.
Right.
You can't handle 50 kids at one time.
Right, right.
We I don't want to say 100, but I'll say it was close to 100.
Yeah.
I can remember telling Eddie one time, because we had so many kids, and they all weren't in the same class. We all know
Right,
that,
right.
right?
When you hear this character,
So I says, Eddie, how are we going to cut these kids down? We can't have 50 bouts, Even though the first 10 or 15 were 1 minute rounds because they were so young. So I says, put them all in against one of the Ataros. We'll have each one that we don't want to give. Because we didn't want to tell the kid
You didn't
he
want
couldn't
them to
box.
come back.
Yeah, right. Well, we didn't mind them coming back, but we didn't want, we
couldn't
thought the
have that
kid
many
maybe
bouts.
said
We had
that,
to get him
that was
out
the
of
kid
there.
who
Oh,
was going
that
to
he
have to
wasn't
fight.
gonna- he wasn't gonna fight.
So we said, Tony, get in here with this kid. So the poor kid.
you know, it was
Go
this
running out the door.
who was our state
Yeah,
senator.
yeah.
Well, he fought at the McKeon Post. Well, the McKeon Post wouldn't let the kids come over to our gym because there was no decisions in there. For us.
Right.
Yeah,
We had decisions, even though we were wrong. They finally caught up with us.
right.
But
We weren't wrong. We just weren't supposed
But
to have
his father used to hang down at L Street Tavern there, and he was talking to somebody down there, and they got me. And I said, "Yeah, bring him over.
Yeah.
We'll see what he looks like." So he gets in the gym, Peter, and I put him in to get the kid fairly decent. He's kicking the kid's ass. I put him against somebody better. He's kicking the kid's ass. I don't know what I'm going to do. So Tony Atado's there. I says, "Tony, come here." So Tony goes over, but Tony's not dressed like other kids. He's got boxing trunks on. He's got these high shoes on, the boxing shoes, and says to me, "Oh, they're putting me against this poor kid. He says he can't even afford sneakers. He got boots on. He's gonna fight me, and he got these fancy."
And plus Chitano was about almost a foot shorter than
I
me,
know,
too.
but he hit a lot harder than him. And he says that was it. He never fought in the show.
He didn't fight in the show.
No, because the Tyler went one round and tried to knock him out.
Yeah,
Because he's from Dorchester.
yeah.
If it was the South kid, he would.
Was living in Dorchester at the time.
Yeah, that's where he's from
Oh,
originally.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of that, the difference between all those kids back then compared to now, there's no kids this year. I had to run a sanctioned tournament just to make the show happen. So to keep the tradition going, it's open to all in New England.
Well, to be truthful with you, to your credit, you actually saved
That's right.
the St. Patrick's Day.
He knows that.
What
He
we
knows he
call the
did it.
St. Patrick's Day boxing show. We used to have it. They'd have to come up and train. That we would start like the 1st of February, right, and then go right to the
On
show.
and on and on, yeah.
But then, as the years went by, especially after they closed the gym, then all of a sudden, you go from 100 within, say, 10 years, that you're lucky you got 20.
Right.
Then it's
right.
down to like 10.
Yeah.
I think the last one we did before yours, we had to reach out to like Dorchester and different places just to have enough kids to box at the
Right,
show.
right.
And I'd say within a 20-year period, we went to so many kids we couldn't handle to basically looking for kids.
Looking for kids
Yeah.
to get it
to
shown.
put the show
Yeah.
on.
Well,
And
now-
you saved the program,
Well,
basically.
it seems now boxing's flourishing again in this area, but it's all sanctioned. Everybody's licensed. All the kids, all these gyms that popped
Yeah.
up. I think COVID had something to do with it.
They still have some in Massachusetts, Boston here.
There's Grealish's in Dorchester.
He's still going?
He's still going.
Holy
There's another
second
place down
cousins.
the street that has some competitive boxes. No
Down where?
Nantum. No Nantum down A Street.
Oh, really? That's
yeah,
new, right?
There's one, no, it's been there for a little bit.
Yeah.
No Nantum in Newton. That's Joe DiNucci's area.
Oh, is that right?
And it's kind of a relation to
glad you brought
DiNucci.
that up.
So, and then there's a Nolan Brothers. There's Revere Boxing. Alex Rivera has his guys over at Revere Boxing. There's Joe Riccardi out in Everett, Broadway Boxing. So there's still Somerville Boxing split and went in a couple of different directions.
Oh, really?
But there's just a lot. There's a lot more gyms.
Yeah. There was a few
Operating these days.
back in the 60s and 70s too. But I think what we try to do is, because it was the St. Patrick's Day show, we try to contain it with
Yeah.
Southie kids.
Right,
You know,
right.
We had no
especially
problem
with
doing most of the time.
the 3 projects we were able to draw kids
Yeah.
from in City Point. And we kind of,
Put them
not on
against each other.
purpose, but yeah, well, where you from? Oh, I'm from D Street Project. Oh, I'm from G Street, or I'm from O Street. Okay, we're gonna put them two together.
So,
City Point against the
To
small ring.
that point, I fought Richie Hogan, who was from the Point. I was from Old Colony Projects that year.
Yeah.
And decent fight. I lost a close decisions back in the days.
Right.
And then flash forward 23 years later, our sons boxed in the same St. Paddy's Day show.
Right.
Peter boxed
Yeah.
Francis in the
Oh, for
same
God's
show.
I remember Peter Boxing.
So
So a little
it's-
blonde-headed kid.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
a peanut.
It's just not the same thing. The kids got too many other things to do, And
Not all good either.
How many of the fathers would bring the kids up because they want them to get involved in boxing? The fathers bring them up.
Actually, believe it or not, I thought there was more of the mothers.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I'll
exactly.
tell you a story. I don't know if I told you
think
before.
you're right,
is
Michael. Yeah.
One time,
well, first
the
of all,
mother-
the fathers are working. When
Yeah,
we're having the trials
yeah.
and everything.
And the kids would kind of just drift into the gym.
Yeah, but I remember mother coming up with a kid. Oh, I want to teach my son how to box and take care of himself. I think he's getting bullied in school and so on. She's going on, but then she's worried. She said, I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want him to say, listen. I says, when your son learns how to box, he's going to be less apt to pick up a gun or a knife. If he does get in a fight, he's going to have confidence in himself to handle himself. Year later, she comes back with the kid, the same kid. Oh, yeah, no, I want him to learn because now they weren't bullying him anymore, because he stood up for himself.
Yeah.
And that was what was making the difference.
Yeah.
The mothers had
It
the
does
fear
make a
that
difference.
their son was
I
going to
mean,
get hurt.
you guys know firsthand what boxing did for you. The ability to,
I don't know.
just,
I don't know.
the confidence,
No,
just to
but
be able to fit in
that's the
socially.
word. I think that's the big word that you get out of boxing is confidence.
Right.
I'm not gonna be Bobby Murphy, who I fought from Brighton. He passed away young too. He was voted the outstanding boxer in Ring Magazine. He didn't win. He had a decision with Chico Vidra, who was, I think it was a college graduate.
Where was he from originally?
Who? Murphy?
Murphy.
Brighton.
Oh, from Brighton. Yeah.
He used to run the Swan boats.
Okay. Yeah.
And another kid from Brighton, McHugh, Bobby McHugh. But Murphy went on to be a pro, but I don't think McHugh ever did. He was a good fighter.
So thinking about the guys from Southie, back in the day. Do you remember Joe Hambone Kelly? Do you remember hearing that name?
Long before my time.
Maloney. So it was Hambone
Yeah.
Kelly, I think in 31,
Yeah.
1931. He was done by then. He was all done. So he must have boxed in the 10s and the 20s around the time,
probably,
probably around the time Herdy was.
By the way,
boxing.
I'm glad we're bringing this up, Joe Herdy again. He was a member of the Guston gang.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
You knew that,
Yeah.
huh?
And
That's
Guston,
like the Whitey gang.
Yeah, right.
Back then, yeah.
but Guston himself, he was an Olympic alternate for one of those years.
Yeah.
It's like 32 or something, the
Yeah.
32 Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took a ship over to wherever the Olympics were that year. Yeah. So Herdy was friends with those guys?
Oh, yeah. He was part of the gang. But it wasn't the good part of the gang.
Yeah.
I mean, they fought too, but there were other stuff. I don't know what the hell they really did, but I should look it up on my thing, see what.
Well, Joe Herdy worked for the Parks Department for years.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why he was hired back in those days for
Yeah.
the Parks Department, because of his boxing ability
Yeah.
and his knowledge and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was mainly a boxing instructor.
Right.
Done
But I
at
mean,
gym.
he would have
didn't
been-
teach basketball.
But
he
he
didn't
would have
teach
been
volleyball.
he would have been politically connected being
definitely.
with
Oh,
the
yeah,
Gustons,
he was.
because if you know the history of that, McCormick was their attorney, was the Guston gang attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever they got in trouble, McCormick defended them, and then in turn, the Guston gang got him voted in to office.
Yeah.
You know, and
But
then-
also another one that went on to be big in politics, who was a boxer, was Joe Moakley.
Moakley, yeah,
You know, I mean, a lot of people don't know that.
Did Moakley start in the program?
No, he was before us. I mean, how old is he? How old is
Joe
he now?
probably at least
95?
8 or 9 years older than me.
Yeah. Oh, so he'd be almost 100?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I didn't even realize
I know his
until
two
I started
brothers.
doing some volunteer work for him that he was into boxing, because he would say to me, "Oh, Mike, how's everything going?" Because most of the time I get involved with him was around St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
You know, and he'd say, "Everything all set for the show?" It was like, "Joe, aren't you interested in me? What about the show?" You know, and he would take an interest in it. You know,
And he ran it all those years up until
Joe Herdy.
yeah,
Yeah, I
until he
took over
passed.
from
Even
him.
the year
and-
before got me down to the South End there to fight over there before we even opened the gym.
And you took over in '65, Mike.
65. He passed away at 64. Jimmy Flaherty was chairman of the Citizens Association, who at that time used to run
Yeah.
the boxing shows and all the St. Patrick's
And the
Day
Citizens Association still going now. Tommy McGrath is running
Yeah.
it now.
And,
There's a whole series of events, and boxing was always part of that series of events.
was one
all
of the
those
The
years.
biggest
biggest one.
draw.
He told
that
us
was
to
the
Mike.
that was the biggest draw. They used to get the most. Well, back in the day, we used to fill the McDonough gym, even the rafters up
Right,
the top.
right.
You couldn't get a seat in there.
Would they ever charge to get
No,
in?
No.
They would sell. I don't know, it was past, I'd say in the 70s or 80s. It might have been around 2.5, where there wasn't that much money coming in from the city. And we let a vendor go in and sell hot dogs
Okay.
and soda and stuff. But it was mainly for the gym and the trophies and
So
stuff.
all those years, it was used as a promotional
Well,
promotional
it was
thing
part
for
of
the
what
community,
Citizens Association, yeah.
and
because
and they ran the parade.
Right, because back I would say from let's say 60s and 70s, there was only like 4 or 5 events that the Citizens Association actually had.
Okay.
It wasn't like now that they have free shooting. They had swim.
Right,
They didn't
right.
have that stuff back in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
They had usually it was the Miss South Boston and
Ice,
My
ice,
sister was.
Ice-a-rama. Was your sister Miss South
well, even
Boston?
not even Ice-a-Rama, because the state wasn't even there.
Oh, okay.
You know,
All right.
But I think I'd say 4 or 5 events. They had the veterans thing at the Heights.
So it's grown. The
Miss South-
Citizens Association
Oh yeah,
has
now
grown
they
with
they,
activities.
they
and stuff.
included everything now. They have swimming, they have free throwing, they have the Miss South Boston, but they have the Miss Ice-a-Rama or the Ice-a-Rama show
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and stuff like that.
But
so
back
they have
in-
at least 10 or 12 different things now compared to I'd say 4 or 5.
So in the early days, it was
Yeah,
just
it-
boxing
it
was the
grew.
big draw.
Yeah.
Like
Every
it was.
year they had a person to be picked. I don't know what do they call it? Not Mr. South Boston, but getting
Man of the
award.
year, person of the year.
And I worked for the city for 30 years, and after 28 years, Mike finally talked him into giving it to me. And I got up there. They loved my speech. The guy that was the commissioner for the under Ray Flynn, he said it was a great speech. I says, you know, takes a lot of courage to play sports, any sport. You're going to get banged around and everything.
Yeah.
But if something goes wrong, you blame it on him.
Yeah.
Blame it on him. It's boxing. Something goes wrong, you blame it on yourself. It's a one-on-one thing, and there's no use to making excuses. You know what I mean? Whatever I did, I used the right words or something, and I can't think of his name. He died too. He was from Charlestown. He said, "That was great. Like, you sound like a real pro." I said, well, I had a lot of practice. I was practicing for 25 years. I thought I'd get it. He finally got it for me.
So all the fighters from back in the day, if you start from Jim Maloney all the way up, who do you remember from the neighborhood?
Tommy Sullivan.
Tommy Sullivan.
Yeah.
Fought
Sure, I fought Red Priest.
Red Priest, Al Red Priest.
You beat him twice, but
Al beat Tommy twice.
yeah, he was the only two losses he had. And Al Red Priest, that's not his real name. He's Italian. He's another one with a different name.
Right.
And about the 9th round of the second fight, he's running and he's picking, like Danny Long, picking him apart, you know. And Sully put his gloves on. I said, "You guinea bastard, get in there and fight like a man!" Yelling it at the Boston Garden. You could hear it all over the place. "You guinea bastard, get in here and fight like a man."
Did he?
No, that was it. That was his last two fights. I think he lost it. He was undefeated. Then he lost to Priest, and he had another fight, and then he lost to Priest again, and that was it.
Was he coming up in weight to fight Al Priest?
No,
was he
vice versa.
Yeah.
Sully,
Okay. All right.
Sully was bigger than him. Sully was probably 170. He was like 160.
So we say
So Sully
Priest,
could
Priest
fight
is a
light
better
heavyweight.
boxer.
Huh?
Priest was a better
Yeah,
boxer.
yeah.
But we had some pretty good fighters, even modern day. I mean, as we all know, Tommy Connors.
Yeah.
Still, I don't know if the record still stands in Boston. Danny Long. All three of the Atado brothers, and throw in the sister, too, if you want to.
And they all come through the program. At one point, the Atados were like the nucleus of that,
That's
of
right.
that program.
Right,
They
and
attracted
I
all the
remember,
kids.
I don't know what year it was, but I think all three of the boys boxed and the sister boxed.
Yeah.
in
Which
the
sister
show.
was it? Do you remember?
I think the old Charlene. I think it
Charlene?
was Charlene. The,
so, yeah, I
was
think
she the
that's-
oldest? I think she was the
Yeah.
oldest.
So was Tony the first to box with
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
Tony,
Richie,
David.
David,
and Tommy.
Tommy
Those
was the
four?
last one to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
To go.
And the girl. But
Was-
we had one son that was older than Tony. Never
What was
fought.
that, Johnny? Johnny.
If you
I
told
think
me.
it was Johnny.
He never fought. He never fought. But
Yeah.
he was decent, but he always looked like a fighter, didn't he? Right
Oh
from the
yeah.
get-go.
Yeah.
His problem was he was just too short. I think
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
for the kids he was
Well,
fighting.
What about David? Was David
David was a tough kid. I thought
Yeah.
David was
Well,
very
good
tough.
body puncher.
power? He had some power, right?
Yeah, well, that's what. All kidding aside, Butch was a good trainer. If you probably don't know this, but for years, the Lowell Sun, which has the Golden Gloves, every year used to have a great big picture in their front window of their place that they print that stuff and everything, and it's Butch Atado throwing a left hook like this. For years and years, that was in there.
Wow.
Bet you could get a picture of it.
And that was up. They posted it up at the
the
Lowell,
gloves, yeah.
Lowell Auditorium.
Yeah. Well, he was a heavy puncher too, you know. But I seen him in some street fights. But let's face it, he weighed 140 pounds. You're fighting a kid 180. I mean, the kid 180 don't have to hit you. He can pick you up and throw you. And sometimes that's what happened. Jackie Santos, known as. By the way, the reason he changed his name because he was into the. He lost in the semifinals of the National Golden Gloves, and that's why he had to go under the name of Tommy Nee.
Because
And
he
he-
lost.
No, because he was too young.
Oh, he was too
when he went
young.
in.
Okay.
And then he started going to the New Garden gym. Him and DeMarco got to be real good friends, and they sparred together. But Tommy was like Danny Long, quick, you know,
Yeah.
and everything. But then he got in there with DeMarco, and he started to be a puncher. In one of his last fights, I saw him take a beating.
Pro
Might have been
fights.
his last fight, yeah.
But he just mentioned another kid
I mean,
that come up through the ranks
Well,
of our pro was Danny Long.
Danny Long. Yeah.
And went on to have a great career as a police officer. And
Yeah.
he actually started his own program over in East Boston, on the police force. I think he just retired, but he was active in our program and then went on to kind of do what we were doing, is teaching young kids how to
Right.
Teaching the kids down L Street.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them came to our program at the end there, you know. The gym's open again, but it's not run by the park department. It's run by youth, something or other.
It's not the city?
No, I went in there, wasn't a kid in the place. 3 guys working
Do they
there.
charge to go in, or is it?
Huh?
Is it open to the public free, or is it? Do they
Oh, I
charge?
think so.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
after the park department gave it to, what's that drying out house down?
Oh, the Gavin House.
Gavin
Yeah,
House.
they gave it to them. They were running it,
Yeah.
even though it belonged
Is
to
it
the city.
is it back to the city now?
It's back to the city.
Okay.
Yeah. And so L Street is open too, but they got boys and girls working out in the same place. You see the bar? You've been there?
I haven't been in yet since they done it over.
You got to see how small the damn place
Yeah.
is. When they had the old place, even right up to the time they closed it, it was way bigger. And they're letting boys and girls in here. And I was in there, I was talking to one of the kids that used to fight for us. I go, what is this? Girls fighting? I said, you got to fight with the boys? Well, there's a girl, Ireland won 2 gold medals in the last Olympics. One was a girl boxer. Did you know that?
No.
And the other one was a boy boxer. So showed you Ireland has no, they only could show. Man, you still got his gym open over there?
No. It's open, but it's not run by him. It's run by some other.
But he donated all the money to open it, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I think they opened it under his, but he came back to America, so he wasn't over there for years.
Right,
In
I
fact,
know.
the last 3 times at least, that me and Billy and yourself had gone back. Weren't you with us when
Yeah.
we went to the gym?
Yeah,
Sean wasn't back there, so
Yeah,
he has. I don't think since he's been boxing, I don't think he had that much to do with the ring, the facility. But they still have it and they still run it. When we were over last time, me and Billy, Billy went down to make a donation to the place, and it's right in Russmook.
So did you guys know about the tournament, how we're running it this year?
No.
We're running the show. So what we did was we put it out there on USA Boxing. It's 2 days, the 9th and the 16th. So we have brackets from 132 to 176, a novice and a sub-novice. So we opened it up, filled the brackets, and we're like 2 brackets shy of having it full.
Are they working out here? They trying out here?
No, they're kids from all over the state.
Oh, okay. So
All over
probably
the
no
state.
Southie kids, huh? You don't have any Southie kids?
There's actually Evan Marcos. His mother owns Olga's Cafe on Broadway.
Oh, really?
Evan Marcos, he was just here. And who else do we have, Pete, from Southie, besides Evan? Evan might be it. So I mean, you got
Yeah.
one.
How were they
One of-
chosen, Peter, to
we-
participate?
We put them in a software. They go in randomly,
Right.
and it puts them in the bracket.
Okay.
So the computer does it and puts them in the
so
bracket
there's no
where they are.
pre-training or pre-fights to.
No, because
See how they gonna
all these kids are coming from different
Novices?
gyms. They're coming from Fall River,
But what I'm
Worcester.
What I'm asking is how would you know if they were novices?
Well, they
Truly
have a
novices.
USA Boxing Passbook, and it
Okay,
has their
all
record
right,
in it.
That's what I mean. That
Yeah.
they have to be kept track.
Yeah, they have to have
You
a.
don't want some kid snuck in that
Nope.
he's already had 10
Nope,
fights.
they all have to have a record.
Okay.
They all have to be registered
That's
with
a good
USA
system.
Boxing,
Right.
and they enter. We put it out there on social media,
Right.
and they enter on their own. And
And
once
basically do they go strictly by weight or age? Too.
well, they have to be 18 plus for
Okay.
this particular one. But we are doing special bouts.
Okay.
So for the tournament bouts, they're 18 plus.
Okay.
And then there's some kids bouts that we have to make special bouts.
Yeah.
And if we have to do exhibitions, what we'll have to do is at the end of the show, official show, we'll have to wait till the officials leave.
Right.
And if we have 5 or 6 bouts that are exhibition bouts, we
Right.
have to wait till they leave to do them. So we'll do like an intermission. So when the officials leave, we'll do an intermission, and then we'll put the exhibition bouts on. If it comes to that.
Right.
If we get enough bouts. But I
We'll
don't
have
even
Eddy
think
available.
I-
Senior
I-
class.
I don't even think we have enough kids bouts to put
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Yeah, well,
That's
it is what it
that's how
is.
much it dried up.
And you know another thing that, this is my own thinking, to go to the McDonough gym, whether they're coming from the projects or not, it's really, but crossing Dorchester Ave, I've seen them guys driving on there.
Yeah.
They're nuts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to send my kid down
No.
here. And it's wider.
I just don't think kids are out and about like they were.
Yeah,
I,
no,
exactly. I know that too. But even if I'm talking about young ones.
Yeah.
They didn't.
They'd have to be
Red
brought by their
Shea, when he
parents.
fought for us, was 45 pounds when he first started.
Oh, Peter's own son.
Huh?
How old what did your son weigh when he first started?
What were you, 50 pounds?
Yeah, that's what I'm
gonna
talking
say,
about.
50
yeah.
pounds.
But I think part of it is it's not just boxing. You don't see kids playing street hockey anymore. You don't see kids playing touch football in the
Right.
middle of the street anymore.
Yep.
You know what I mean? These are all sports when we were growing up that where every street you went down, there was a hockey net in the
Yeah.
middle of it. They had to move it for you to
It's
go
changed.
by.
It's
You don't
changed
see
so
that
much.
anymore. So it's not
changed
just
so much.
boxing. It's other sports
Yeah.
too that they're not involved in.
You're right.
All the kids that are in your show, they got to wear headgear.
All headgear, mouthpiece, cup.
Well, back when I fought, and my brother Jimmy won 2 fights, novice class, and I don't know how the kid in the Marines get in the novice class, but he was in there. Back then, the servicemen had to wear headgear. So my brother Jimmy's against this kid, and the kid took the first round, but Jimmy was tough. He just kept coming. In the second round, you got the kid against the ropes, and he hit with a right hand, and the headgear went like that. And the kid's trying to fix the headgear, and Jimmy's punching the shit out of him. About 15 seconds, bing, the bell rings. Kid goes back trying to get this effing thing off me. He says, I can't see. I'm not fighting. And he takes it, he throws it down. Know what the lieutenant did for the Marines? We read over the referee. Fight's over. The other guy wins. He won't put the headgear on. Even though it wasn't a law for the Boxing Association,
Yeah.
it was for the people in the service.
But that was the military just
But
protecting themselves.
I know, but you find out.
All the kids nowadays, they all have to wear
Yeah,
the headgear.
that's required.
Don't tell that to
Mouthpiece,
Jerry Quarry.
cups. So I think we have 10 bouts, 10 tournament bouts made for the 9th, and 8 tournament bouts for the 16th, and we'll fill the rest in with special bouts. And the special bouts are actual bouts; they're real bouts, but they're not part of the tournament. So we'll
That
match
was that
them up.
Saturday?
That's this Saturday, the 9th. Yeah,
The 9th and
the
the
bouts
16th.
the bouts are going to start at 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
both days, the
Noon
9th
time.
and the 16th. The weigh-ins are 9
They,
to
they
11.
charging to get in?
Yeah, it's $25 to get in,
Okay.
as we're doing
Where's
it
it
here.
going to be held? It's not
Right
going to
here.
be here?
We're
Yeah,
going to
it's
do
gonna
it
be-
right here. Yeah, we rented the chairs.
Don't
we got
let Eddy
everything in
collect
order.
the money.
We even were shutting down the classes for the day. And Saturday is a big day usually. We're going to set up the show. We'll set the chairs up and everything on Friday night, and then Saturday we just walk in.
It's good that you have that. I enjoyed the last one.
Yeah, it was a
Can I,
good time.
can I if you know, you probably don't bother to keep records, but do you have any participation? I'm curious, we're talking about the old days. Do you have any participation that you know about of mostly fathers, I would guess, of their children or even grandchildren coming back to your program here now? Do you get a lot of them
No,
or not?
No.
Not even for the shows. I mean, just to even just work out or learn how to box or whatever the case.
Here and there, but nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
overwhelming.
In the
Crazy
beginning,
thing.
when you opened up, when you had the 2 buildings, you had a lot of women, didn't you?
Still do. Still.
do you
It's probably-
really?
It's probably 50% of the membership.
Oh, shit.
Because you got to understand, the fitness is what allows
I
us to
understand.
stay
Of
open,
course I understand.
right? But it's 50-50 because fitness, women love to work out, so they're not getting punched in the face, so they
They
love
want
to
to know
come
how
down.
to protect themselves.
They just
too.
want to. They just want to burn the butter, hit the bag. They're not even really, for the most part, concerned about the technique. They just, they don't even know that they're not, throwing punches like a fighter. They're just getting a great workout. Of course, there's a few diamonds in the rough where some really pay attention to the technique, but for the most part, they're just burning the butter.
Yeah.
They're getting a good workout.
Well, I never liked, even when Butcher's daughter was fighting, and then the Golden Glove still has women,
Yep.
don't they?
Yep. Last week was all women. It was mostly women.
Really?
A couple of guy bouts.
We have a cup on. We get hit there. We're still getting hurt. I know they have a cup or whatever it's called here. Do you know how many women die from breast cancer, including one of my nieces that just died about 2 months ago? Why let them hit it there? I don't care if they get protection. I'm dead set against women boxing because of that.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, So sad. But
the
girl
day-
from Ireland won one of the gold medals. Craziness.
But I know I said it earlier, but I think it's a great thing that you're doing now,
Definitely.
carrying on the tradition, even though it's changing or evolving to a little bit different type of tournament. The whole thing of it is keep the young kids busy. And they're not all young. I mean, I'm talking about anywhere from, I'll say 10 to 20, 25 that get an outlet
Yep.
that they probably would not have other than beating up their girlfriend or punching walls out somewhere,
Yeah, no, it's a
And,
healthy outlet.
Yeah,
as
and
as
you
we
know,
it.
and the thing of it is, I don't want to sound a little crazy about it, but you don't know where it's going to come from. So you got some guy that you think, oh, he's a great guy, don't worry about it. But he goes home and punches the shit out of his wife or his girlfriend, because he gets mad over some little thing.
Right.
Whereas if he had an outlet like this to go to, if he had enough brains, he would go down and punch a bag.
The hockey player for the Bruins, Lucy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just sometimes when you get so
Well, 'cause they-
frustrated, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, you could be shit-faced too, so, it's no excuse, I understand, but that's when it usually happens, or drugs, whatever the case may be,
I think a lot of it is alcohol and drugs
Yeah,
induced
yeah.
first. They're
Well, my father always told me two things. No gentleman ever hit a woman or ever beat up a drunk. Drunk can't fight no more. Get out of it.
Jeez, that would take away half my wins.
So there were some guys, if I can go back a little bit, Danny Long's era and come forward, right?
What's that?
From around Danny Long's era,
Yeah.
around the time he started, who were some of the kids that he would have been boxing with at the time? Danny, Kevin Weeks and those guys? Was
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Kevin have some older brothers that boxed
Yeah,
too?
he had a brother that was went to Harvard of all. He
Yeah,
grew up in the old Colony Project.
Yeah.
You and me.
was it
I think
Joseph?
two brothers, right?
Yeah, one went to Harvard.
But most of the time with those guys, Peter, as you probably well know, once, not so just us, but once we knew they were going to be better boxers, we would reach out so they wouldn't be fighting Southie kids. When they were younger, they fought them. But then once,
You get some kids from
yeah,
other
because we didn't have the
gyms.
kids to fight them. Like who were we going to have to fight the Atados after the second or third year that they were
Right.
boxing? And the other thing too is when the kids started real young, like your son or even Tommy Connors or
Yeah, they got too much experience, so you got to bring guys
because they come
in.
back every year and
Yeah.
they were
So
training every year.
who would you make Kevin and his
whoever we-
brothers box? You
Whoever
bring
we
some
could
guys
find,
in.
we would go to Quincy. We'd go like Eddy said, McKeon Post, Somerville. We would try to find somebody that they would box.
There was a good picture of, I think it was Kevin Weeks, Danny Long, Jerry Yanovich, Brian Yanovich, the Roaches, Pepper Roach, Freddie Roach.
Roach.
It's a good picture of all those kids back in the day.
But you got to remember how young they were. Even the picture you gave me of Freddie Roach
Yeah.
refereeing.
Yeah, he
I mean,
looks-
me
He
refereeing
looks
Freddie
like
Roach.
he's 8 or 9 years
Yeah,
old.
fighting the McDonald kid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's how young they were. So we had a hard time. We, meaning Eddy and myself and whomever was involved in most of it.
Matching
in that
them
era
up.
was me and Eddy, is to try find an even bout for them.
So those guys, they would have had to get into AAUs after St. Paddy's Day, right?
And one of the reasons why we didn't have decisions is we didn't want it to be interfering with their I don't know how they kept the rankings, even with the AAU and fighting down in Brockton or Fall River and stuff, because you could have had a bunch of good guys that are half in the bag refereeing and judging our fights.
Well, they
You
all
know what I
had
mean?
pass books, so you kept record in the
I
paper
know it, but
pass
there was
book, right?
some of them. That's why they tried to stop our show, because we were having decisions which we really shouldn't have had, because these kids would get a loss when they probably should have gotten a win.
Right.
But yet now they have to go and fight down at wherever, Fall River.
But it's the nature of it, right? Kids get the experience, get the exhibitions.
It's like I
that they
asked
can.
you, earlier about the kid. How did you know that he only had one fight or three
Yeah,
fights?
yeah.
Because if they're not from, if they're up from Springfield or somewhere, And they say, oh, yeah, no, he never fought before.
Well,
you
it's
know?
happened.
You
I mean,
find
'cause
out he
it
had
just-
10 fights.
It just happened to one of my trainers, James, back in 2013. He was up at the Gloves. He boxed twice. He won twice, and then he faced a guy, third fight, and he lost. And they looked into the guy because he just looked too good to be a novice.
Yeah, right.
And they traced him back to New York City. From New York City, he had 40 fights, and then before he was in New York City, he was in Puerto Rico. So who knows how many he had then. So they called me on a Monday. Back then, the fights were on a Tuesday. They called me on a Monday and said, hey, this guy was no good. Does James want to continue? I said, yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there tomorrow night. So he went, and he ended up winning the tournament.
great. Right.
Yeah, so that's a good turnaround
Oh, yeah.
But
story.
it don't happen too often they get away with it, especially if it's out of the country.
There's a
Puerto
picture
Rico.
here of Shockey, Maloney,
Oh, really?
and that guy Dan Carroll. Dan Carroll's in the background. So Jack Shockey, Jim Maloney from Southie,
Right.
and then Dan Carroll.
Which one is Maloney? The one on the right?
Maloney's on the right.
Yeah, because he was bigger. He was bigger than Shockey.
Here's another one of them. That was that old picture of you guys. Let me see if that's Dan Carroll. He was
Okay.
a cop,
Yeah.
a bookie, and his
Yeah,
brother was
yeah.
a senator. So he kind of ran the street rackets as a cop. But that's Maloney there with a couple of young ladies. And
Yeah.
Dan Carroll.
Yeah, he liked the woman, that's for sure. Well, he doesn't look like a fighter,
But he gave Shockey a fight, right?
Twice. Fought Shockey twice, but the first fight, I don't know if he won it or I think he lost it too, but I think it was a split decision. And a split decision can depend upon. Joe Hurdy was he was a judge, don't you?
Yeah.
On top of
yeah.
everything else. And Dennis Pat Brady, did you ever hear of him?
No.
He was a lightweight. He was from Connecticut or something, but he was Irish, And I can't remember who he fought. Some real good fighter. And the other two guys give it to the real good fighter, and Joe Hurdy called it a draw. Because he just fought. He voted for the name. He didn't fight for the kid.
Yeah.
Craziness. But it's a tough sport. But if you get to the top now, you can make decent money. You know what
So
I mean?
there was a kid, Joey DeGrandis from D Street. You guys remember Joey coming
Of course I
through?
know
course.
Joey.
Yeah.
He was in our program.
He
No.
fought for 3 world titles.
And not only that, he was a good athlete.
Yeah. Yep.
He was a good athlete. And Tommy Murphy. By the way, you ever hear of Tommy Murphy?
Tommy Murphy from Brighton.
Southie.
No,
Oh,
Southie
no.
You're
X.
thinking
no.
of Bobby Murphy.
He was a
Bobby Murphy.
cop. He got
No.
shot outside of Kelly's.
No.
What a football player he was.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, he had speed. He caught the touchdown pass when we played the Lions Club for the
He
championship.
could box too.
1968. And the Lions Club, they were supposed to wipe us out. His brother Tommy played for them, right? They refused to get jackets because they would have had to put co-champs on it with the Chippewas because we tied them. We didn't win the game. We tied them. So they called us co-champs of the Boston Park. And that was big-time football back then.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
just when the Patriots just getting started, right? But Tommy, he could do boxing, speed, softball. I don't remember him playing baseball. But
It was crazy, though.
he was, yeah. Well,
So,
What about Michael Blight? Do you remember Blight?
yeah, of
coming
course,
through it?
Michael, but he wasn't a main eventer.
yeah. And he
Matter
didn't-
of
he-
fact-
he didn't fight that long though either, did he?
No, he didn't. But he was powerful
Yeah,
puncher. Danny Long fought that kid from East Boston.
Monero.
Yeah, he fought him twice.
Twice.
But it was up where you fought. And Michael Blight was on the undercard.
Okay.
And he knocked out, I can't think of the name of the kid. But anyway, Jimmy Conley's brother, Billy, was on the boxing commission. He was just as cuckoo as his brother. And Jimmy's taking him out of the ring. Mike just knocked the kid out. I mean, out. And he goes, Jimmy, he says, that was a good fight, but that wasn't a perfect left hook. Jimmy says, I don't care what it is, it knocked him out. You say that to somebody? It wasn't a perfect, there's no such thing as a perfect left hook.
If he knocked him
it
out,
worked.
I'd say it worked.
One of the guys that upset, the kid that Freddie Roach had? Won all those.
Pacquiao.
Huh?
Manny
Pacquiao,
Pacquiao.
yeah. Well, Pacquiao is going in, and he's throwing a left hook, and the kid ducks down, and the hook is going over his head. And the kid comes up just like this and
Hits
hit
him
back
with the right hand.
and knocked him out.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what it is, you know. You never know when you're going to get hit with the shot.
Yeah.
And who throws punches like this? and would make it a landing with some power.
Yeah.
You never know. My father and mother had 11 kids. And the last one was my sister Kathy. And she had a twin brother.
Were you counted in that 11?
Yes, I was. She had a twin brother. And when he was in the hospital, he was having trouble breathing, and my mother kept taking the stuff out of his throat, you know. And back then, the kids went back to the nursery. They didn't leave him in the same room with you. They keep him in the same room now, don't they?
Yeah.
So anyway, so she told the nurse, she says, listen, you got to watch this kid every hour. He's having an awful lot of trouble breathing and everything. This is City Hospital. And so please watch him. They said, okay, well, that girl goes off at 11 o'clock. The other girls come on. They don't. Next morning, my brother was dead.
Oh, shit.
So 11 kids. We're living in the project, you know. So my father goes up.
Lorinda.
Yeah. My father goes up to Eddie O'Brien, who was Jackie's father, who ran the place first. And he said, Mr. O'Brien, he says, my wife lost a kid. Told him what I just told you. He says, I don't have any money right now, but if you will bury my son, he says, every week, I promise you, I'll give you $50 every week. He says, and if I have overtime, I'll give you $100. So I just want to get him in a casket and buried. Would you do it? Mr. Keller, who do you think you're talking about? We both go to that Catholic church, St. Augustine's. We meet at meetings. I understand what's going on. You don't have to worry. It won't cost you a penny. I'll bury your son in a casket and in a grave, and it won't cost you a penny. And we never got to see my brother because, you know, it was only my father. He did it.
Yeah.
That's what Jackie O'Brien's father did.
You build a reputation.
That was Southie back in the
Yeah.
old days.
Yeah.
If I'm Southie and you're a decent person, you don't worry.
Yeah.
But one of the things they got now.
I guess that's why he moved to Shrewsbury.
I had to go out there because I was working out there. Get tired of driving. And they ripped my project down.
Yeah, it's gone now, right?
Yeah, well, they did the ones all along Old Colony Avenue along the beach, but
Yeah.
the rest of them left up because that's where I live. And they
Where-
were looking
where
for
were you,
big-
Eddy?
They went to 9th and Dorchester Street. The only,
I was on 9th and Dorchester Street, 241 East 9th.
no shit. 'cause
Yeah.
I was on 8 Paddys Way.
I was 266 Dorchester Street. The only house in that project was on Dorchester Street. Were you the one
We
right
on-
behind me?
Right behind you, yeah.
Well, a friend of mine just died that grew up there, Billy Burke. He was a teacher at BCI.
Wow.
And he lived at 241.
Yeah, 241.
Street. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, we were thrown out by then. You know what happened? No, really. What happens? The kids get older, we get jobs. This is made for poor people. And now we get more income. My sisters are working, I'm working. Out you go.
We got kicked out after 10 years,
So you know what I'm talking about.
but for a different
Now
reason.
they don't keep them out.
Yeah. But we had one room, and the rooms weren't that big. A bunk bed here, a bunk bed here, and a bunk. We used to jump across. And my brother Jimmy, when my mother would put him in, well, they didn't call it a timeout back then, but it was timeout. You get 2 sheets and roll them up and tie them together. We're on the 2nd floor, and he tie it onto the bunk bed and go crawling out. My mother ever knew we were doing those things. It's a good funny story. When I made my confirmation, it was the last year of the war. So back then, to get sugar and all that stuff that they're going to the servicemen, you had to have stamps. They weren't worth money. You just had to have a stamp. 'Cause we had plenty of stamps. 10 kids and the mother and the father. So I make my confirmation at St. Augustine's, 11 o'clock in the morning. I come home, my mother's waiting with a tea. Says, Eddie, get across the street. Here's a stamp and here's a quarter. Go across the street and get 2 pounds of sugar. And the guy's name is Pat Hart. He's from Ireland. Don't let him tell you he doesn't have any sugar. I said, my mother wants 2 pounds of sugar, Pat. He said, we don't have any. He says, come here and behind you. So he takes me behind, shows me the shelf, a little bit of, but no box, you know. I come back, I said, Ma, they don't have any. He said, he's lying here. I said, no, he showed me the thing. Well, there's another one up at Old Colony Ave and 8th Street. Not Old Colony Ave, Old Harbor Street and 8th Street. We're about 7 blocks
Yeah.
away. So I go up, that guy was an Irishman too, Troy. My mother wants 2 pounds of sugar, here's a quarter, here's the stamp. Okay, so I got it. We're coming out, and I bump into 2 kids that go to St. Augustus with me. Eddie, what are you doing up here? And my mother ran out of sugar. We couldn't get it down there. He says, isn't this great? We're going to be soldiers of God. He says, and we're talking, oh, the nuns got us all brainwashed anyway. He says, you know something? I know every Irish mother wants one of her sons to be a priest in Ireland. That's how it is. I said, you know something? I'm really thinking about being a priest. And the kid fully says, I am too. Isn't that funny? And the other kid, oh, I don't know. He says, but it's not a bad idea. He said, what are you going to do a priest? You got to go to college or, seminary back then and everything, And so we're talking for about 5 minutes. I got to get out of here. My mother's going to kill me. So I'm running back. I ran all the way down 8th Street and get in the house. I said, Ma, here's your sugar. Where have you been for the last half hour? I said, Ma, I don't think it was a half hour, like 15, maybe 20 minutes. I was talking to a couple of kids from school. You calling your mother a liar? I said, no, Ma, I just don't think it was a half. Betty, calls my sister Betty, get this brother of yours, get up to St. Augustine's, go in the priest's house, because the place is closed, get the priest out and have your brother do his confession again. No son of mine is going to make his confirmation with a mortal sin on his soul. And Father O'Connor, he had the loudest voice. And Betty went in there. And he said, you, get in that church, he says, and kneel in that pew there for 5 minutes. I'm going in the box, he says, and you make sure you're sorry for this sin. So he says, so after about 5 minutes, I go and I go, bless me, Father, if I have sinned. It's been 1 hour since my last confession. These are my sins. I disobeyed my mother, and I'm making my confirmation, and she thinks that's a mortal sin. He says it is a mortal sin. You got to learn to obey your mother. You know what the 4th commandment is? Honor your father and your mother. Okay, Father. 1 hour. You come in the Guinness Book of Records? And another thing, people come from Ireland too. They get holy water, and they get a little bottle, and it's thunder and lightning, not so much the thunder, but the lightning comes. They go every room in the house with the holy water.
With the lightning?
Yeah, because they get scared, and they're blessing your house, so don't go on fire. Which didn't bother me because I knew there was some Irish that did that other place. But my mother was the only one I ever did it in the bathroom. I said, Ma, how come your cousin don't do the bathroom, but you, because that's part of your house. God bless the Irish. God bless the
What did we
Irish.
start talking about?
Peter, you never been to Ireland, have you?
Never been yet.
Oh, you never been to Ireland?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to go
This
with
guy
us.
lives over there.
Do you?
Billy Higgins and stuff. Oh, yeah. You'd
Yeah,
have a
we're-
ball.
I'll get over there someday. I have
Do you
a
have any?
cousin-
Do you have
my
any
cousins-
family over
yeah,
there?
because my
Are
cousin.
they still there or just
They
born
are
there?
still there. Bobby Perry, the Perrys.
Oh yeah.
Who,
See, my whole
he has all the. He has actually a house over there,
yeah,
so he knows.
my mother's whole family basically still there.
Wow.
One sister came to this country.
Connemara.
All the rest.
Connemara,
same
Peter.
area.
Russ Smook.
Same
Don't
a-
listen to him.
I'm talking to
Connemara.
him. Will you
It's
stop
the
it?
same
from
area.
up-
Russ Smook. My second cousin is Sean Mannion.
You want to know what he's talking about, Ross Smuck? Ross
Yeah.
Smuck is a part of Connemara,
Right.
which is a part of Galway.
Right.
But he only wants Ross Smuck to be City Point.
Listen. Don't listen to his description of it.
What's the difference? 'Cause
Russ
I always
Smook-
hear
all right,
this
here-
debate
all
about
right.
Connemara and Russ Smook.
Okay, here it is, and here's the truth. Not because he says it. You have Boston, right?
Yeah.
You have Charlestown, Hyde Park, West Roxbury,
Yeah.
Dorchester. All right. You have South Boston, right? What is that? What is South Boston part of?
Part of Boston.
Boston. Russ Mook is part of
Connemara.
Connemara. So, but when you're talking about someplace, when you say, "Oh, where do you live?" Where do you say you live?
Boston.
You say Boston, not South Boston.
I don't because
You don't live in South Boston
people.
anymore.
Well, no, I do,
Huh.
but people don't know South Boston.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to know
I think
something?
that was the opposite.
We have 50 states. They have 32 counties. So it's like, the
Right.
states. But if you say to them, where do you live? And I say, Southie, they wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So over in Ireland, they don't say Galway. They say some part of Galway. Like my mother comes from Mayo. She lives in Murrisk. Who the hell knows where Murrisk is?
Right.
So you say Mayo.
And they
She
don't
says
they don't
County
say Mayo. They say Murrisk. Like they don't even tell you what county.
Right.
There's a kid that sings on. You ever hear of the Irish Thunder? Celtic Thunder. You never heard them?
No.
Oh, terrific singing
Really?
group. Terrific. They're on your TV. But anyway, the kid was singing at our church. I can't think of his name now. And I says, where do you come from? Because, yeah, they could have come from Mayo or Galway, my father's
Morris.
people. And the kid gives me a name like Morris. What the hell was that? So, but he's in front of a crowd. So he's talking up, and I'm on the, so finally, I'm the only one there. And where the hell is whatever the name of the town was? Morris. He goes, Westmeath.
Where's that?
Well, Westmeath is one of the counties.
Yeah.
But there's some big, like Galway and Mayo are like the second and third largest counties. It's 32 counties in Ireland. The most people live in Dublin, which is the second smallest county. Do you know that? Dublin is a small little county, but it's like New York. So that's where all the kids grow up. They want to go
Right.
to, they're crazy over there.
Well, I think part of the reason with doubling is that one, it was back when that was the biggest airport. That was basically
Yeah.
the only airport
Yeah,
going
exactly,
into it.
yeah.
They didn't have like Shannon.
It's
and
still the
stuff
biggest
like
airport.
Right.
So where's your place in Ireland?
Westmook.
It's in Russmook.
Galway.
My,
How big? How
Galway.
big is it? What's the population in Russmook?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Is it like a Southie, or
But I have two
is it like
famous-
Dorchester?
I have two famous cousins. Family.
Ma-
Yeah, family actually. still
Mannion?
lives
Is Mannion your cousin? Oh yeah.
But,
We had a meeting with City Point about 10 years ago. And Pat came in. I was surprised to see him there, you know. I said, how did you go through all that shit? You got the boats filled with guns to go to the
the
IRA and
Valhalla,
everything.
yeah.
I said, are you sorry you did it? He says, no, I really miss it. I really miss it.
The one thing I wanted to make note of is, just to thank you guys for always being there for me and my friends, and
I think you're more
keeping
beyond
the-
there for us.
keeping the program going. Because if it wasn't for boxing, my life would have went in a whole different direction. And to be able to train and work
Good
out,
to hear that.
mentally, to be able to do all that.
Put that in writing.
Yeah.
I'm serious, not just you. How many guys? Danny Long, same
Yeah.
way, turned
Yeah.
out to be a cop, and you never know.
No, but you think about it, if you go through the history of it, the program's been going since 48. Eddy got you guys going, and you guys, how many kids' lives you affected in a
And-
positive way just through the sport.
And you're right, because I have guys come up to me, because I was involved with sports too, not just the boxing, but the football and even softball and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But I have guys, and now their fathers, oh yeah, thanks, you had a great, mentioned to Tommy Murphy. I'll tell you a quick story about Tommy Murphy. The same thing with football was after the championship game with the Lions Club. We're walking off the field, right? And like I said, he caught the first touchdown pass. It was like a 60-yard pass that he just cut across the middle. But anyway, we're walking up. He was never involved in organized sports like we were, like high school or college or anything, right? But it was all basic park league, softball, and boxing and stuff. We're walking off the field. I got my bag, and all of a sudden, I hear footsteps with me and Bobby Lowe walking off the field, right? Because we were both coaching at the time. And he comes up to me, he's crying. What the hell is that? I thought something happened in the thing, right? He says, I just want to thank you, Mike. He says, I used to sit in the stands and watch all Southie High's football players and say, I can play better than they can. I can do this better than they can. But I never had a shot because he never went to high school and finished high school. And I never played sports. And he says, you made my day today. And I'll never forget it, to be able to score. And because there was a pretty good crowd there,
Yeah.
But that was, he says, White Stadium. He said, that was his biggest thrill. White Stand, because that's
Yeah.
where all that Southie High's football Thanksgiving games were and stuff like that. But it was just odd because this kid, some people called him a punk, and he was
In some ways.
in some ways, but he was still a good kid. And
Great athlete.
I think a lot of people didn't see him for what talent he had because he was a good football player. He was a good softball player. And they didn't even know it because also he was a good boxer. And they didn't know it because he wasn't playing organized. He wasn't playing college football or whatever. It was all just
Needed a
Right,
shot.
exactly.
Needed to
And
get
how many
a break.
kids were out there? You got to remember. I think, in my opinion, for a town like the size of South Boston, you think of about all the athletes, not just boxing, football, baseball, hockey,
Basketball.
basketball.
Ray Flynn.
Well, basketball wasn't that many, but hockey was, and football was, and baseball. These kids, there was a lot of these kids that would never been able to go to college without having some type of a scholarship or the ability to be able to do what they were doing. And I think for the small town of South Boston, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think we'd have one of the higher ones
Yeah, a lot
that
of
went
talent.
on
A lot of
with
talent.
Yeah, whether it's boxing or, like I said, football or
When you
anything.
when you think of the amount of kids that were in one area, a small area,
right.
always playing, you think of all the reps that they got in, whatever their chosen sport was.
Right.
And if it was a multitude of sports, they
Right.
were just great athletes.
Well, the other part of it too is like, if you take them away, you really don't have that much. Whether you like them or you don't like them. Back in the day, if you took away the 3 housing projects, Southie was nothing.
That was it.
Think about it. I mean, the area,
Yep. It was 800.
all the-
It was 800 families in each project.
yeah. You think about,
800 apartments.
well, just think, if all the kids came from City Point, we'd have nobody.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said not basketball. I don't think either one of you guys know this. Ray Flynn is in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Oh,
He
big
is.
deal.
He is.
'Cause he
Your
could
son
dribble.
played basketball too, right? Did your son play? No.
Yeah, my son played.
Your
yeah.
son played.
No, but I'm just talking about Ray Flynn. First of all, he was a great player at Southie High,
Yeah.
but he got no scholarships. And
Yeah, you got
He went to Rhode
Went to
Island. He went to Rhode
he
Island.
didn't get any scholarships before someone spoke up for him.
Oh, okay.
Because Ray played in the summer league. Ronnie Perry,
Mm-hmm.
who's now dead. He's older than Ray. I think probably my age. He's dead anyway. But the coach down at Providence played with Ronnie Perry at Holy Cross. And he says, you got any scholarships left? And he says, yeah, I got one. He said, but I'm looking at this kid, from where? He said, you got to take a look at this kid, Flynn from South Boston. He said, I play with him in this summer league. He says, he's averaging 25, 30.
That was before the 3-pointer.
Yes, before the three-pointer. And so he had him come up and saw Ray play a game, and that's how Ray got the scholarship.
Wow.
But which is coming up now, the basketball tournament. It's the NCAA championship. So that's all the guys that win the leagues. But the guys that come in second and third are still pretty good. And that's when they have the NIT. And Ray played in the NIT and won the championship for Providence and got voted the outstanding player in the tournament. And the Basketball Hall of Fame is in Springfield. And there's pictures out there.
Yeah, we went.
MVP. Oh, you
We
did-
ran there, yeah.
You didn't notice his name,
We
though.
were there. Pete, remember going to the Basketball Hall of Fame? Yeah, that was cool. Do you remember seeing Ray Flynn up there? We never saw Ray Flynn in there.
No, you got to get to the NIT tournament because it's not just him. All the years, 1955, 56, 57.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
You got to try out with the Celtics too.
Yeah, I heard that.
He's a pretty good athlete. But he broke his neck in 3 places.
No.
He was at the prayer service about 3 months ago.
He broke his neck recently?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we had a girl from Ireland, Tracy. You met Tracy.
Yeah.
She come over for Billy's daughter's wedding, and she plays the harp. That's something different, especially in America. So she came over, but she couldn't take a harp, cost her a fortune. So Billy rented one, and she played. And Ray showed up the night when we had the prayer service, and he told me he has a son, not a son, a grandson that's autistic, and he took to that kid like it was the best thing God could ever give him. It's his daughter's son.
Yeah.
And he takes the kid up and down Broadway and everything. And now he's like 11 or 12, and he's learning how to play basketball and everything. And all the other ones, they're not good kids. You ever see that one about the little girl? They put her in the game. She's Down syndrome. It's an ad. And they give her a ball. It's right in the end game. She takes the ball and throws it up and hits the rim and goes in. And they're all jumping up and down. And the girl on the other team goes, didn't we win? They did. They won by about 14 points. And the referee says, yeah, but she won something too. Tonight, you never seen the ad, huh?
Never did,
I've seen
no.
it 100 times. Well, that's what happened. Ray was trying to teach these kids, but they were uncoordinated and everything. And he tripped over something and banged his head and broke his neck. He was in the hospital for over a month.
Wow.
And I says,
I think I read about that because what happened was after that, all the other kids that were handicapped were tripping over. They thought that's how they were supposed to shoot.
Only a lower render could come up with that.
Is this how you do it? I shouldn't have did that, but
Well, thank you guys for coming out.
thank you for-
Appreciate it. Recap all those years of service and boxing and
Well-
training and
Yeah, but
But my problem is,
sacrifice.
who's going to carry it on?
Yeah.
Once you go, I'll guarantee you, it's gone.
Yeah.
No, I just think so. You know,
We still have some
young
some
talent that want to do it.
hanging in the wings, right, Pete?
Yeah.